Good afternoon and welcome to episode 42 of the Jacksonian. As I'm yours truly, Jackson Johnson, and I have with me is former Delta State player himself, Johnny Burks. And let me tell you something, folks, it's going to be a wild ride as we will be discussing quite a lot about the college days at Delta State, and we'll be discussing a lot about the Alabama Crimson Tide from last season and this season. And it's going to be a fun one for episode 42. How you doing today, Johnny?
Doing well, doing well. Hanging in there, getting ready for football.
Oh yeah, it's getting closer every
Mhm.
day. It's
Yeah, I
gonna
can
be
smell it in
fun.
the air. The grass has been cut. You can always, football field, practice field has that distinct aroma, with fresh cut grass, and it brings you back.
Oh, it most certainly does. I am so looking forward to it. And it's the first month of football coming soon.
Yeah.
So, before we start off show, should I tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, I grew up in North Alabama, a town called Hartselle. Very, athletic wise, very competitive town, and grew up in a neighborhood with a bunch of kids like myself, and we rolled with the seasons. In the spring, we played baseball, in the spring and summer, and then in the fall we played football. In the winter we played basketball, and we were always competing, and played all three sports in high school, and then played football at Hartsville High School. We had some really good teams back then. Played and lost a couple of state championships, but we had a good run. And then I got lucky. I was a quarterback, and but I'd also played in the secondary. I played in secondary when I was a junior in high school, and then my senior year I moved over to the quarterback. I was a backup quarterback as a junior, but my senior year I was quarterback, and then uh, signed football scholarship. Wound up over at Delta State University, which is it's a good university, but it's way out in the Mississippi Delta, and if you've never been to the Delta, it is a different environment. It is a totally different place. It is flat. It's a real strong farming community, and but it likes its sports, and played football there. Played for Red Parker. Coach Parker was he was from Arkansas. He was actually from Fordyce, Arkansas, where Bear Bryant was from. They knew each other. And then Coach Parker at one time was head coach at Clemson back in the 70s. And then he wanted to get back home, and so he headed back. Being from Arkansas, he had a car dealership, and but he couldn't leave the coaching business, so he applied, and they hired him at Delta State. He coached there for many years. I played football for him and played quarterback and defensive back there. And back then, it was part of the Gulf South Conference. I don't know if you remember the Gulf South Conference is still here, but back when I played, it was Delta State, it was UNA, Jacksonville State, Troy State, not Troy back then. It was Troy State, Valdosta. Just some great football programs. Very competitive. Somebody from the GSC was typically always playing for the Division II, championship. And after I played, Coach Parker, he left us after my senior year. He became the offense coordinator for Billy Brewer at Ole Miss. If you remember Billy Brewer, that's an old name from back in the '80s. And then, so anyway, I had already planned on to stay and be a graduate assistant and work on my master's, which I did. Then went back home and decided to start. I was a coach. I was a biology teacher, but I also coached. And my high school coach put me in touch with another high school coach. I was looking for somebody, and his name was Wayne Trimble. And Wayne Trimble, if any of you older, one like me, been around a while, remember that he played at Alabama for Coach Bryant, played 64, 65, 66, played with Namath and Stabler and all those guys. And it was a pleasure coaching with him and learning more and more about football. And then he introduced me to his daughter, and I married her, and now he's my father-in-law. And so I coached high school football for many years, and coached quarterbacks and defensive backs, and had some good players, and just enjoyed my time. I got out about the time it started going 24/365, where you were doing something with football 24 hours a day and 365 days a year. So about that time is when I changed modes and moved on to coach other things.
Oh man, those are some pretty cool stories, man. It's always good hearing some cool
Yeah, and
stories.
if any of the audience, if they know, if they may realize or recognize Delta State because of mascot. Now, actually, the mascot's the Statesman, but everybody knows that we're also the Fighting Okra. And one day I'll have to tell you how that mascot came about. But yeah, the Fighting Okra. It's been called one of the top 10 best mascots and one of the top 10 worst. But yeah, Fighting Okra. In Alabama, you know, we say Roll Tide, War Eagle, and Mississippi. If you say Okra, everybody in Mississippi knows you're talking about Delta State.
Oh man, that's funny. Fighting Okras.
Yeah, the Fighting Okra. I'll show you that mascot. It's one of a kind.
Oh, there you go. That's pretty cool. But you had some great days at Delta State when you were there. What was it like over there exactly?
You talking about living over there or playing ball?
Playing ball.
Playing ball. Well, one, it was hot because the Delta's flat, and back when it's a farming community. I mean, you'd be out there and there'll be, you know, those crop dusters flying all over the place, spraying crops, and they change the crops every so often. Back when I played, they were growing rice, and if you know anything about growing rice, you have to keep the fields, you have to keep them moist, and that just bred mosquitoes. So I mean, you'd be out in morning practice, and I mean, it'd be mosquitoes all over. You didn't go out at night at that time. You didn't go out at night in the Delta because the mosquitoes would eat you alive. But it was hot. It was humid. It was farming community, so there wasn't a whole lot of trees, a lot of shade. And Coach Parker, you know, he was old school. He put you to it. I mean, every practice was I mean, it was you better be in shape and better not be afraid, because every practice was a war, like most places. And he was a perfectionist. I mean, you did it right. And Coach Parker was the type that when we got on the bus to travel, to our away games and stuff, he'd stand at the door of the bus, and if you weren't clean shaven and didn't have on the proper attire, you didn't go. I can remember many times leaving the field house and seeing some of those rookies, those little freshmen in there dry shaving. You know how painful that is. They've been there dry shaving. They didn't know, but it was good. Very competitive over there, and we just like probably any university, and you play ball, it's going to be a tough environment, and you got to prove yourself every day. Not just you don't get to relax and just I'm a starter, I get to relax. No, there's always somebody looking to take your place. So. And he made it that way. He wanted it that way, and he was fair about it. He was a good man to play for. I learned a lot from him.
And were you able to win some championships over at Delta State?
They do now. But back then it was so tough. I mean, gosh, we had UNA, we had Jacksonville State, we had Troy, we had Valdosta. We would be up there. And you had Mississippi College back then. Mississippi College had a good Division II program going. So I mean, we would, it was one of those you would have like UNA, Jacksonville State, Troy State back to back, and then may have a week open, then Valdosta. So there was very rare that at that time that teams literally went undefeated. You had to be close. You had to be 10-2, 9-2, something like that. We were always like 7-5, 6-4-1. We're right there on the edge. But no, we got close many times. We were ranked and all that. Got close many times, but it was what it was.
Well, they often say you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, we were very close. Nobody ever just ran at the score on us. I mean, we're very close, very competitive. When you played us, UNA and Jacksonville, Troy, they all, Valdosta, West Georgia was another good team there. I mean, Tennessee Martin played, and everybody strapped it up.
Yeah. And
It was hard to win. Every now and then, like Troy would run through a good group of players. Jacksonville State later did, UNA did, and you know, but we just were always on the edge. But now, things are looking up over there in Cleveland, Mississippi. My roommate was Mark Hudspeth, and Mark, he was over there later in the late 90s, early 2000s, and they won the national championship. I think it was 2001 that Delta State, finally won that thing. And then Mark wound up being the head coach at UNA. Then he went to Mississippi State. He was a head coach at Louisiana Lafayette for probably 10 years. But so eventually, you fight hard enough, long enough, you'll eventually pull one out. So they did, yeah. But we were just very competitive when I was there.
yeah. Well, now that Jacksonville State and Troy are into FBS, they're doing some great things over there. I wonder if Jacksonville State will have another great season in their second year in the Conference USA. That'll be fun to see.
Yeah, and it's good to see them, go up like that. And there's been talk about Delta State making that move, but it's the Delta is a very remote area, and it takes you got to be have a tough mindset to go over there and to spend 3-4 years. And back then, you signed a scholarship and you pretty much was there. Now you could transfer, you're gonna have to sit out. But today everything's changed. So, but back then it was, you signed a scholarship, you were planning to be there 4 years and ride it out.
Well, and as we've been seeing a lot with the transfer portal, how are you feeling about it in this age?
Somebody like old school like me, now you're gonna have a new generation that grows up with it, but I just don't see the loyalty. I can see, somebody like Coach Saban. I mean, and he'd never say it out in public, but I could see somebody like Coach Saban. You spend all this time, all those hours recruiting on the road, away from your family, talking to kids and preaching the gospel to them and telling them, we can help you and we can, and Coach Saban being a loyalist. I mean, he was there, 16, 17 years. He was loyal to the university. And then you spend all that time and all that effort, okay, player signs with you, and next year he's gone. You can imagine somebody like Coach Saban, who is, very loyal, very, very hardworking. After a while, you start getting a little ticked about that. You told me you were going to be with us, and then, now you're gone. So I don't like it at all. I think it sets a bad tone. Seems to me like it's going to wind up being some kind of semi-pro league. Schools, I don't know the young fan base, but the older fan base are going to, kind of lose a little faith in it because every year your team's different. Okay, and you don't expect that in college. You expect that in the pros, off-season trades and things like that, but you just don't expect it in college. Not somebody like me, and so it's going to be interesting to see if the NCAA can survive.
Well, that's for
sure.
They're
losing more power every day. They're losing more and more control.
Oh yeah, lot of power they're losing. So there's that, and conference realignment's been another issue in all of college football.
So it'll wind up being just the major conferences, and the smaller schools will be put to the they'll actually become the real college football, but the upper schools, they'll be super conferences and playing against each other, and the NCAA will be totally gone.
Yeah.
I'll give it 10 years.
Well, I hope it's longer than that. So, but you did mention a little bit about Nick Saban retiring, about how he was not too happy about the way the college football landscape was
I
going.
couldn't imagine him being happy at all.
No, he was not.
I mean, he's old school. He's like somebody me. You can see the gray hair in my head. He's old school. He's about loyalty. I'm not going to let you down. Are you going to hang around and then let me down and run off? And I don't see it. Yeah.
Yeah. But he'll probably have a lot of fun at College Game Day this season because that's gonna be fun right
Well,
there.
I tell you what, that guy will bring a lot to the table because if there's somebody that can analyze football and tell you the ins and outs, and it's that guy right there.
Well, we know Alabama, Wisconsin's going to be in bid noon kickoff this season, and Mark Ingram works at bid noon kickoff. So I wonder if we're going to see like Coach Saban and Mark Ingram take a Instagram selfie together or meet.
I'll put money on that. That will happen.
Man, that would be.
And there you go, Mark Ingram sign and stay with Coach Saban to the end, and there you go.
Man, that would be awesome right there. And ironically enough, that's going to be the first time since 1928 that Alabama has gone to Madison, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be huge. But they've never played in Tuscaloosa, but they will in 2025.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be an interesting game. With the SEC 12-game schedule, it's going to be tough. And I know they got the FBS type games they're going to play, but Wisconsin's going to be a little different.
Oh yeah,
it's going to have a little pressure.
Yeah, the jump around, that's going to be a big one right there.
Yeah. I tell you what, Alabama's SEC schedule is not going to be an easy one. And the hardest thing is, I mean, how are you going to be at Oklahoma, Norman, Oklahoma, and then the next, you're playing Auburn the next week?
Oof.
That is, and then you look at some of the other schedules. You got Tennessee. What are they playing? Who they playing? Are you looking at it?
Yes,
and then they play Vanderbilt. And look at their last two games.
UTEP and
Oklahoma
and Vanderbilt.
And Auburn. Who is it?
Tennessee has UTEP and Vanderbilt to end the season after they play Georgia.
And if that and you look at the start of the season, don't they have how many home games do they have? Or am I thinking somebody else?
They got some more home games.
Well, look at Oklahoma. Don't they have somebody's got 4 or 5 straight home games? Starts the season. Maybe it's either Tennessee or Oklahoma.
It's got to be Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Auburn, Auburn's doesn't have it much better. I mean, they finished the season with Texas A&M and Alabama. I just think that one or two things, they've got to rethink some of this. One or two things, if they're going to play the ever how they figure out this championship, semifinal with the or they just, I can't remember. Are they just taking the top 2 teams?
It's the top 12 teams. The top 12 teams and the 4
Wait,
top.
I'm talking about the SEC championship. Is it the top 2 teams at the end of the season? Because there's just going to be one bracket, no East-West.
Top 2 teams, no East-West.
And then if you got Oklahoma or Tennessee, if they make it, and then look at their last 2 games, I mean, it's just practice and, save it for later. Just waltz right into the SEC. They've already played everything. They got 2 little practice games and then waltz right into the SEC championship. And then Alabama's going to have to play, boom, Oklahoma, Auburn. And then if they win those, then bam. That's a tough end of the season. So I don't know. Maybe they put it in a little computer and spin it around and puke out the schedules, but pretty tough.
Well, Oklahoma's definitely got a two game stretch that's tough. After they play Bama, they got to go to Baton Rouge for LSU. So that's going to be ugly for them.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is teams like Alabama, you can look at some of these teams that have the tough rear end. Look at Georgia. Pull up Georgia. Look at their last 2 games.
Oh,
the last one was Georgia Tech. Look at the one in front.
They got Georgia Tech before that. After that, they got UMass. Great.
UMass, then Georgia Tech.
Yeah, no.
And then you look at Tennessee, and then you look at Oklahoma, Alabama, Auburn. If they're throwing it in a computer and spitting it out, wow. Good luck.
UMass.
That doesn't seem.
I don't know which is the worst game, Tennessee UTEP or Georgia UMass. That's pitiful. It's pitiful.
Oh, Pitiful fans, and look at the fans. The end of the season, you want the big rivalry game, and I know, bless their heart, Georgia Tech, and every now and then they'll be pretty good, but I mean, bottom year in, year out. But fans be let down a little bit too. You want to finish with that big bang, and UMass.
Oh Lord, that's gonna be a god awful game.
We'll watch it though, and
Oh
UMass, they'll get them a good paycheck.
yeah, and some of the degenerate gamblers that are gonna be watching this game, they're gonna be like, over under Georgia minus 56. Come on, Georgia, get the 57, get the 57. Yes. Oh no, it's at 55. Now it's gonna be on Scott Van Pelt's bad beats on sports.
Yeah. We'll see. You got to do what you got to do.
True.
Yeah.
But yeah, Georgia Tech being on Black Friday, I had a feeling that ESPN was like, we're not going to have Arkansas, Missouri on Black Friday. Who's going to watch that game?
Yeah.
So, but, Georgia will probably be smacking around Georgia Tech again.
Yeah. No doubt. Unless they have just colossal injuries. I mean, you never know, but chances of that are very remote. So, yeah, it'll be interesting, to say the least. But but the end of the year, and then boom, the championship game, bam, bam, bam. That's going to be tough for some teams, and not too hard. But your bottom line is you got to get there.
That's all you got to do.
If that's the road they paved, we'll drive on it.
Well, we saw Alabama, Georgia will be on ABC Week 5, Saturday night. That's going to be a huge one.
Oh yeah. That's in Tuscaloosa, and I was there not a while back. It was one of the times that Georgia was in Tuscaloosa, and it was a night game. Oh my gosh, night game. And I got home and of course that's in Tuscaloosa. I was living in Coleman, which is just north of Birmingham, and I mean I got home at 4 a.m. That drive, oh, it was awful. So, any viewers out there, you haven't been to Tuscaloosa, Georgia, and it's a night game, good luck getting out of town.
Well, I'll make sure to keep
it's not going to be your friend.
I'll make sure to keep it in mind when it gets to a point where I'm going to Athens, Georgia for a Bama Georgia game.
Yeah.
Man, that game has had some crazy moments.
Yeah. Remember the blackout?
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah. That was early in Saban's career, and I mean it was a thrashing. Oof. And that one I went to overtime, and I think Georgia won it. It was right
2007 Week 4. That was Georgia won 2007 Week 4 on ESPN.
Yeah. Yours truly was there.
Oh man.
Yeah, got home 4 a.m.
Oh man, Matthew Stafford throwing a game winner while his fiance or ex-girlfriend at times doing the mess around with Joe Kotz.
Oh yeah, I heard that story. Ooh. I don't know who let that out.
His wife.
It was a girlfriend, wasn't it? Or is it his wife now?
Yeah, Matthew Stafford's wife, who was his girlfriend at times, she felt like he wasn't committed enough. So it was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to go hang out with the backup quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm just like, good God. Like, why would you be airing that out on a podcast?
Exactly. And wow, can you imagine teammates? They were teammates at that time, and the dynamics and the I don't know. I wouldn't want to be in that quarterback conference with when we all used to meet, on Sundays and have that Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays too. But that little meeting room would have been interesting.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure it ended well.
And that's something probably need to be left alone.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure No Sean Marino had to dive out of the room for it. Nope. I mean, it had to have been bigger than the one they made against Florida in '07.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Who was that quarterback? What was his name? It was Stafford and who?
Matthew Stafford and the backup quarterback was Joe Kotz.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I remember. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, I remember. And then to let that out, some things better left unsaid.
Yep.
Honey,
Some people
you
think,
could have spared me on that one.
oh man,
Maybe funny to you, but not to me.
I'm just glad we're not either one of those guys. That's for sure. That's gotta suck.
Exactly.
But there are some big shoes that are being filled going into 2024. Nick Saban retired, and a man named Kalen DeBoer has taken over the town in Tuscaloosa. How are we feeling about that?
I'm feeling very comfortable. Um, I mean, the guy as an athlete, I mean, he was a good football player. He played baseball, and then of course coached under a good coach. Learned, seems like a student of the game. And I mean, gosh, the guy's won everywhere he's been. I mean, he has a what? It's around 120 wins and 12 losses in his entire career. I mean,
Yeah.
he's won everywhere he's been. And I remember I was looking when and I I was surprised, Washington. Think of that, Washington making it to the championship game, and so that tells you there's some pretty good coaching going on there. And then I look back at his some of his wins. He was at Fresno State for a couple of years. I think one was COVID, and then the second year, I think Fresno State goes 11-2, and I think they beat UCLA.
Yeah.
So I mean, the guy's won, and he was at Washington for what, 2 years? I mean, the guy's a winner. He's like Saban. I mean, he wins. Now I don't know what his demeanor. Now Coach Saban was serious, kind of, meticulous, kind of, General George Patton esque, that type of scenario. I don't know what personality Coach DeBoer will basically have, but he does put winners out there. And
Yeah.
evidently, he's got some good assistant coaches because head coach leads the show, but you gotta have a good crew behind you and very loyal to you. And so evidently, he's smart with who he hires.
Yeah, I remember watching a little bit of Fresno State UCLA 2021. Like, I was basically up at 1 a.m. in the morning watching that game. That was a classic on how Fresno State won that game.
Yeah,
I believe Jake Hayner was the QB at that time. So that was a fantastic finish from Fresno. Matter of
yeah.
fact, it was a couple weeks after UCLA beat LSU on week 1 on Fox in
Oh
20.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you got yeah. I mean, you got to stop and take pause at that. I mean, that is a big, big win, very unexpected, and I mean, just out of the blue. And then, I mean, that puts you in, people start talking about you, and that starts building that reputation. And then you look at his record. I mean, the guy wins everywhere he goes and wins championships. I think he won um, uh, Sioux Falls. I think he won 3 national championships.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, three out of 5 years. And
Yep.
the other two is like second. And so I looked at his record when he came about, and because I was just curious, because I'd always, you watch TV enough and you hear what the comments, and especially when it started getting to, playoff time, the end of the season, and then you start learning more and more about, some of these coaches and the ones that are, hopefully going to be in the semifinals and finals, Final Four. And then you start looking at the coaches, and you're sitting there and, DeBoer, and you start paying attention and you learn and start looking, finally you're going to get to Wikipedia and say, who is this guy? Let me look at his record. I mean, where's this guy coming from? You know what I'm saying? So that's when I started paying attention. And out of the blue with Coach Saban, retiring, I mean, my wife called me and, have you heard this? And I was like, really? And then, so you start who would replace him? I didn't know if they'd go over to, a lot of people were talking Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and Sarkisian at Texas, and then they go to Washington, and then I'm like you, I started looking it up, and I was like, he's got an impressive resume.
Yeah.
And I think he's got some good players, and he's had some good transfers. But I just get put off with the one and done. Remember, and we've all been sick of that. We got sick of that with Kentucky and Calipari and one and done and one and done. But at least they were going pro. But now it's one and gone.
Yeah.
Now they're reaping a NIL check somewhere else. Got a better package. Show me the money.
There's always somebody offering more for sure.
Exactly. I mean, yeah. And Bonds. Where do you go? Texas?
Yeah, Texas.
Oh, and it's about the money. Well, who was the artist always does the Alabama paintings?
Daniel Moore.
Yeah, I think has Daniel done one on that? He may just kind of scratch him out and put somebody else image in here. They go to Jalen instead of the catch. Go back to Jalen and the throw.
Oh man,
yeah.
But that was a tremendous play, 431. Because I remember like the week before rivalry week, I know everybody talked about Auburn losing to New Mexico State. I'm like, look, I get it. They lost to Mexico State, but they're going to give us a heck of a game.
Always do. Always do.
Especially Jordan Hare, because like
exactly.
we just can't win more than double digits there.
Yeah, I just the thing I know times have changed with whether taking the snap under the quarterback, not under the quarterback, under the center, and the quick snap and all that kind of stuff, and but in noisy environments and things like that, communication and signaling, and it gets really, really risky. And that's why I kept, Alabama, that game, then you go to Alabama, Michigan. You're on the goal line. Why are you not under center?
Yeah.
And you're taking the snap, direct snap, and I don't get it. And the times where you see quarterbacks taking a direct snap and they're in their own end zone.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Back in the old days, they used to get on to us when we were checking plays, because a lot of people back then ran the option, the wishbone and the veer and all that kind of stuff. And so sometimes you get chewed out if you called an option play back in toward your own end zone, because you had to go out there and pitch, and there could be a mistake on the pitch and stuff like that. And so we were kind of frowned upon for doing that back then, even though, the toss sweep is different. But when you're pitching, out to a running back, and you're close to the end zone, and the ball lands on the ground, it's fumbled, and all that's a big risk. And to take a snap 3, 4, 5 yards in the end zone, direct snap, just shotgun, and then what do you think's going to happen? And that's and then it gets in it can get in the players, it can get in their head, a little yip. You remember that term, yip?
Oh yeah, I remember.
That thing in your head where you're afraid to do something because you're afraid you're going to mess up, and you just can't get it out of your head. And so stuff like that, and the yips are hard to get over. And so I can see where what was his center's name?
Man, I think it was McLaughlin.
But anyway, it doesn't matter. But you can see over time, it might give you a little yip, Yeah. And so I don't know. There's a time and a place for everything. But Alabama going in, Auburn, Alabama going in, Michigan, we're snapping it 5 yards deep and screaming, everybody screaming, hard to communicate. It's just I just didn't understand. Just put him under center. We can run him, bootleg him, run him out wide. We can hand it off. We can toss sweep it. We can run that thing in there. Everything you do in the shotgun, you can do under center.
True.
So anyway, it was a recipe for disaster. Always is, and it'll continue to be. You'll As long as they keep doing it, you'll keep seeing the fumble snaps and the missed snaps and all that kind of stuff.
True.
And
Well,
it's bad when it's at the end of the game and it cost you the game.
yeah. That was just like, oh man, I hated that we lost that game, but I do hope we can get a shot at revenge against Michigan. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it would be, and then of course both teams have new head coaches.
True, Sharon Moore and Kalen DeBoer,
Yeah,
an amazing matchup.
yeah.
But now we've looked at the 2024 schedule, and we're seeing Jalen Moore, Jalen Milrow, Jalen Milrow and Kalen DeBoer teaming up together. Going in 2024, we saw the schedule. What is the record prediction as of August 3rd, 2024?
Uh, for me, I feel good about everything. They'll be in the top four, but that Oklahoma, Auburn ending right there is going to be. I see that and that's going to be trouble. And
Yeah.
of course, Tennessee will always, be a challenge. But I feel good about everything. I feel good about Wisconsin. We'll have 2 games under our belt, and most of our players have been in the big time games and the loud noises, and I think they'll have time to settle in. And Milrow's got to have a world of confidence and going into this season. So I think he'll calm everything down like he did last year. I mean, he just took his lumps and then boom, 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 became a very steady, dependable player. So I think he'll have a big impact with success. But going back to your question, I don't think anybody's going to go undefeated.
No.
I think we'll beat Georgia at home. I feel good about Auburn at home. Oklahoma, the only worry is Oklahoma out in Norman, and you just don't want that loss, that end of the season loss.
No.
Now it worked out for Auburn, but it didn't work out. They wound up losing anyway. But I mean, they regrouped real quick, so that it can happen. But chances are, I mean, it's a very huge obstacle. So I'm looking at a 10-2, 11-1, and still may make the playoff. Well, we'll make the playoffs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because I'm looking at the playoff field. It'll be huge.
Yeah.
So we got 12 teams. I'm thinking we could see like an Alabama USC matchup. That would be cool,
That'd
right?
be a good one. That'd make everybody happy. But I definitely, unless the rail, the wheels fall off, and I feel like 10 to 11-1, and then in the playoffs, and then you can't make any predictions there until you see who, what the brackets are.
True. Yeah, I mean, I got us at 10-2 as well.
Hmm.
I hope we beat Georgia, but right now I'm just kind of like, I think Kirby learned a little too well from Coach Saban about revenge
Now I'm
games.
gonna tell you what. Okay, what killed everybody? Georgia, was Bowers. That guy was incredible. I mean, the tight end,
Yeah,
Bowers was number 17.
yeah, Brock
Yeah,
Bowers.
what now?
Brock Bowers.
Oh yeah, that guy. I mean, there was nobody covering. I mean, he's a nightmare and very dependable, and would catch it in the middle. And I mean, oh, he was just he just killed everybody. Though they don't have him anymore, so I'm feeling better about that.
Oh, well, he's now a
He was
Raider.
a monster.
He's now a Raider, so maybe he can give the Chiefs trouble twice a year.
Yeah, there you go. I think he will. He is just a matchup problem because he doesn't have blazing speed, but for the size of man you're going to have to put out there on him, he's got good speed and good hands.
Yeah. He was scary to go up against, but like you said, we don't have to deal with him anymore. But
Yeah,
I'm
go ahead.
really hoping we don't have any trouble in Baton Rouge against LSU. I'm really hoping we don't get any trouble from them. But I do have a feeling that we could see something like LSU upset Bama possibly. The next thing you know, we see them losing to Florida in Gainesville.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Yeah. You're right. Um, and yet LSU is kind of a hit and miss. Either they're on and they're unstoppable, or they're just good but not great. I want last year good but not great. And then Joe Burrows, great. I mean, just fabulous. So, and then you go years past. I mean, LSU's either running out the, killing everybody, or they're just kind of they're winning, but then they'll find a way to screw something up.
I mean, they almost lost that Rely Quest Bowl against Wisconsin last year. I mean,
Yeah,
I know that Daniels opting out had a lot to do with it, but I
yeah,
couldn't help but feel like that game set up a lot of momentum for Wisconsin for 2024.
yeah, yeah. You're
But
right. I think so too. But that
fun.
see that's LSU. Either they're or you're just unpredictable. I mean, which team we're gonna get this week? So either they're on a roll or they're not.
Yeah.
Kind of, on a roll.
Well, that's how it's always been with Brian Kelly coached teams is they always do well in the regular season, but they
Yeah,
can't do well in the big games in the postseason.
yeah,
And the Reliant Quest game's not even a big game. If they were playing in Sugar Bowl or Orange Bowl or any of the playoff games, I don't
mhm.
think I'd see LSU win a playoff game. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and say it right now. Before the end of Brian Kelly's tenure at LSU, you're not going to see a single playoff win or a single conference championship for LSU.
I may have to lean with you on that if I'm foreseeing the future. Uh, I think he's a good coach. I think he's well prepared, but I don't think he's I don't think he brings enough to young kids to to get them over the they're right there at the they're right there at the edge, but I don't think he brings enough personality and enough push to get them over the top.
Oh man, I guess those dance moves that he was doing isn't going to work.
He's too dry, man. He is way too dry. No, he's not a funny. He's not a funny. Unless he's hiding it, but I haven't seen anything to show that he's a funny character, and that that. And sometimes you have to have a guy that can just take the edge off, and not have you so wired and just you got to have somebody just tone it down. Everything's gonna be okay. Let's have some fun. Let's be stupid for a little while.
Oh yeah. I mean, nobody is sitting there going, "Oh, that old man Brian Kelly's cool." They're like, "Oh man, that he is out of
He's the
out."
funniest man around. He's the funniest man in the room. He is so funny. I don't see it.
Nope.
I see Mr. Bland.
Well, he's gonna need another voice,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I don't think that's gonna work for him either.
No, it is what it is with him. They brought him down there, so now he's yours.
Oh yeah,
They go now. Think about it. They go from Les Miles to who was the
Ed Orgeron. Ed Orgeron.
Yeah, Orgeron. They got Brian Kelly in Cajun country. I tell you what, those guys need to do is they need to play those Raging Cajuns down there in Lafayette. That's what they need to do every year.
Oh, that would be huge. That
Yeah,
would be a huge
they
one.
don't want to. They don't want. They want to own this. The state of Louisiana. They don't want Tulane, or they won't play any of those teams because they're afraid. Blah blah blah. But that would be a great one right there. Lafayette and Baton Rouge. They're only 2 hours away from each other, if that far. That'd be a good one. And old Lafayette's out there in that Cajun country, and they get serious out there.
Oh yeah.
They'll load up and they'll bring the boats and they'll bring it all, crawdads and everything in Baton Rouge.
Oh, there you
They
go.
got the real Cajuns in Lafayette. Oh, if I was LSU, I'd play those suckers every year. That'd be great for Louisiana.
Oh, it'd be huge. It'd be
Mm.
huge for the state. I mean,
Hmm.
maybe like once Tulane can go to the ACC, maybe we could set something up for LSU Tulane every year.
Yeah, and then that would be the forced way. I don't know why they don't just volunteer to play. I mean, Lafayette's Louisiana. Well, now they finally they were Southwest Louisiana, then they were Louisiana Lafayette. Now, which is what they wanted. They wanted to be the University of Louisiana, and now they are. So you got LSU, all right, Louisiana State, and you got the University of Louisiana, and so hey, let's play.
I mean, you can't really tell me LSU Oklahoma is an exciting rivalry on rivalry week. It's not.
Well, they're going to force it on us.
Yeah.
Rivalry week ought to be Oklahoma, Texas, end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, either that or like go back to Oklahoma State. I mean, works for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I'm gonna be complaining about Oklahoma State not playing until they do schedule something.
Yeah, you can't lose. That'd be like losing Iowa State, Kansas State. I mean, you can't let those traditional things just get. It's not fair to the people like me, the old folks that grew up with it.
Yeah. But as we wrap up,
the missus is here.
Oh, hey.
Yeah. Yeah. So the dogs might start barking.
Well, as we wrap up episode 42 of the Jacksonian, and Joe, for those who, hey, Elaine, how you doing?
That's my wife. She's going to try to mess everything up, get me distracted.
That's okay. Photobomb for the win. All right.
All right.
And for those who'd like to tune in to see what you guys say, Johnny, where can they find you?
Nowhere. I don't have an online presence. Facebook.
Facebook works for me.
Yeah.
There you go.
You can find me there. But no, this you find me here. This would be my online presence.
Oh, there you go. Nice. There we go. More merrier.
Yeah.
Oh man. I swear, if I wasn't doing this, like I'd be like, I may just lay off the online for the day.
Yeah.
There's some stuff on social media that's too crazy, even for me.
I know. I love watching those crazy Karens. One day I'll tell you my crazy Karen story. I had one, but I didn't have my dang phone with me. I was digging in my pocket. I was like, I got a Karen. I got one. And I was digging in my pocket. Dadgummit, I ain't got my phone. I couldn't video her because I was fixing to rock her world.
Oh, man.
All right, man.
And as for me, you can find me on YouTube at Jackson Johnson 979, where I'm 147 subs away from magic number 500. And you can also find my updates on who's coming on the Jacksonian on X at Jackson0996 0335 and on Instagram and Threads at Jackson Johnson 543 908. Until next time, this is Jackson Johnson from the Jacksonian, wishing you all a happy Saturday afternoon and stay safe and stay away from the heat.